New York architecture in the 19th century, Beaux-Arts and mansions of the Gilded Age. Welcome to a journey through late 19th century New York City, a time when architecture was not just about function, but a defining expression of wealth, status, and cultural ambition. Today we'll take a closer look at how the Beaux-Arts style and opulent Gilded Age mansions transformed New York into a masterpiece of architectural grandeur. From the palatial residences along Fifth Avenue to civic marvels like the New York Public Library, let's explore how this era left an indelible mark on the city. The Gilded Age, spanning roughly from the 1870s to the early 20th century, marked a period of rapid industrial growth, technological advancements, and unprecedented accumulation of wealth. New York City stood at the center of this transformation, becoming home to industrial tycoons, financiers, and magnates who amassed fortunes from railroads, steel, and oil. An explosion of wealth fueled fierce competition among the elites, who sought to display their success in the most public way possible, through architecture. For the city's wealthiest families, building opulent mansions and funding grand civic projects became a way to cement their status and create legacies that rivaled the aristocracy of Europe. A key feature of this era was the emergence of Beaux-Arts architecture, a style deeply rooted in the classical traditions of Europe. It originated from the prestigious École des Beaux-Arts in Paris, where architects were trained to embrace symmetry, monumental scale, and intricate detailing inspired by the Renaissance and Baroque periods. When Beaux-Arts arrived in New York, it quickly captured the imagination of ambitious architects and clients eager to recreate the cultural splendor of Europe. This aesthetic was not only applied to private residences, but also to public buildings, symbolizing New York's aspirations to become a world-class city. The Gilded Age's wealthiest families, the Vanderbilts, the Astors, the Carnegies, turned Manhattan's Fifth Avenue into a showcase of luxury and extravagance. Known as Millionaire's Row, this stretch of the city became the epicenter of opulent mansion construction, with each family striving to outshine the others in architectural splendor. These mansions were inspired by European palaces, featuring grand facades, elaborate ballrooms, and imported materials such as Italian marble, French tapestries, and handcrafted woodwork. The architecture celebrated excess in every sense, with no expense spared to create homes that bordered on the fantastical. One of the most famous examples was Cornelius Vanderbilt II's mansion, completed in 1883. This 130-room home boasted a design reminiscent of French chateaux, with ornate carvings, gilded interiors, and lavishly decorated spaces intended to impress even the most critical of guests. It was, in effect, a public statement of Vanderbilt's dominance in both industry and society. The Vanderbilts were not alone in their quest for architectural grandeur. The Astors, another incredibly wealthy family, also constructed luxurious homes with the help of acclaimed architects of the time, including Richard Morris Hunt and Stanford White. Each project pushed the boundaries of what was considered possible, with innovations in design and materials helping to distinguish one mansion from the next. An example of this innovation can be found in the development of double-height ballrooms, where entire walls needed to be specially reinforced to support massive chandeliers. These homes weren't just residences, they were stages for lavish parties, a visual declaration of influence as much as a space to live. While the Gilded Age elite poured money into their private homes, they also recognized the importance of public architecture. A growing sense of civic pride prompted wealthy New Yorkers to fund the construction of cultural institutions, libraries, and city halls designed to elevate the collective experience. The Beaux-Arts style became the ideal aesthetic for these projects, pairing symbolic grandeur with a utilitarian purpose. The convergence of private wealth and public ambition resulted in buildings that celebrated the city's transformation into a global center of art, commerce, and innovation. Among the many architectural triumphs of this period, the New York Public Library stands as a shining example of Beaux-Arts ideals brought to life. Although its construction was completed in 1911, much of its conceptualization and design occurred during the late 19th century, firmly placing it within the Gilded Age spirit. Designed by the architects Carrère and Hastings, the library reflects the fundamental principles of Beaux-Arts design: symmetry, scale, and meticulous detailing. Its facade, with its towering Corinthian columns and intricate carvings, immediately conveys a sense of cultural importance and permanence. Inside, the library features expansive reading rooms with stunning vaulted ceilings, ornate chandeliers, and miles of meticulously organized shelves. The architecture aims not only to inspire awe, but also to affirm the city's commitment to education and knowledge as a public good. To fully appreciate the legacy of the Beaux-Arts style, it's worth examining some of its signature features and how they were executed in New York buildings. Symmetry and order. Beaux-Arts architecture emphasizes balance and harmony, with symmetrical layouts dominating both exterior facades and floor plans. Grand staircases, designed as focal points, staircases often featured sweeping curves and intricate railings that pointed toward a building's upper levels. Imported materials. From Italian marble to French crystal, materials were sourced globally to achieve the highest level of quality and refinement. Ornamental detailing, from floral carvings to coats of arms, no surface was left plain. Decor served both an aesthetic and symbolic function. The New York Public Library's iconic stone lions named Patience and Fortitude perfectly encapsulate the Beaux-Arts attention to detail and its blend of beauty and symbolism. It's essential to understand how these architectural choices reflected and shaped society at the time. For the elites, structures like the Vanderbilt Mansions in the New York Public Library were symbols of their success and aspirations. They embodied a belief that artistic beauty and cultural achievements could legitimize newfound wealth in much the same way as titles and estates legitimized aristocracy in Europe. However, not everyone viewed this opulence positively. Critics of the era referred to the period as gilded rather than golden, a thin veneer of luxury hiding widespread social inequality. While Millionaires' Row glittered, much of New York's population lived in overcrowded tenements with little access to basic amenities. The contrast between the rich and the poor was stark, and architecture, for better or worse, became a visual representation of this divide. As the Gilded Age gave way to the 20th century, many of the palatial mansions that lined Fifth Avenue began to disappear. Changes in building codes, economic shifts, and the thirst for modernity led to their demolition or conversion into commercial spaces. Today, only a handful of these estates survive, preserved as museums or private clubs. The architectural concepts pioneered during this era, however, continue to influence modern designs. Beaux-Arts principles of symmetry, grandeur, and attention to detail remain admired and referenced in new construction projects, ensuring that the Gilded Age's legacy endures. Beyond individual buildings, Beaux-Arts architecture also shaped the evolution of city planning. The emphasis on axial layouts, monumental public spaces, and cohesive aesthetic unity informed urban design across major cities in the United States. New York's Grand Central Terminal, built in the early 20th century, is a perfect example of how Beaux-Arts principles extended into infrastructure and transportation. While the Beaux-Arts style itself became less prevalent by the mid-20th century, its focus on interweaving artistic splendor with functionality continues to inspire architects and city planners alike. The architecture of late 19th century New York is more than just a remnant of a bygone era. It tells a story of transformation, of how a city, fueled by ambition and wealth, sought to redefine itself on the global stage. These buildings remain physical symbols of a time when art, identity, and power merged like never before, leaving behind a legacy of beauty and meaning. As you walk through the streets of New York today, it's hard not to feel the echoes of the Gilded Age. The city's timeless appeal rests not just in its modern skyline, but in the layers of history that shaped it. From the soaring columns of the New York Public Library to the ghostly presence of once grand mansions, New York's Beaux-Arts and Gilded Age architecture continues to captivate and inspire. Late 19th century New York was a stage for architectural ambition and cultural change. The ornate Beaux-Arts buildings and extravagant mansions of the Gilded Age did more than define a moment in time. They set a standard for architectural excellence that resonates to this day. These structures remind us of the enduring relationship between art and aspiration, beauty and identity. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of New York's 19th century architectural marvels. As we marvel at the timelessness of these creations, we are reminded of how architecture, at its best, connects us to the past while inspiring the future.